This is First Class Elijah Parent.
And this is First Class Ashlyn Murray.
And you're listening to Core Conversations, a podcast from the U.S. Coast Guard Academy Alumni Association. We're coming to you from Studio 1887 in the Alumni Center, where cadets sit down with alumni to talk about the experiences, decisions, and moments that shape life of service.
Today's episode features Lieutenant Alyse Westbrooks, class of 2018. From graduating the academy and serving aboard a cutter to pursuing the Interservice Physician Assistant Program, her story is all about figuring things out as you go and committing fully when you find your direction.
What really stands out in this conversation is how much of her journey came from simply being open to possibilities. She didn't arrive at the academy with a clear plan to go into medicine, but through exposure, mentorship, and a lot of initiative, she built a path that didn't even feel visible at the start.
And it's not just about the end result. She talks a lot about the work behind the scenes, taking extra classes, finding mentors, putting in hours outside of what's required of her, and really owning her development every step of the way.
There's also a strong theme of mentorship throughout this episode, both the people who helped her along the way and how she's now giving back to the cadets coming up behind her. When you think about everything she shared, what was one insight that stuck with you the most, Ashley?
I really loved when she talked about her time aboard a cutter and how she had this goal and to go into medicine, but she was so transparent with her command, and her command was super supportive of her putting in those extra hours for clinical hours. And I thought that that was a really good life lesson for all of us cadets, as if we find something that we're passionate about, to be transparent and to be open to that support from others.
Awesome. Thank you.
What insight stuck with you the most, and how does it connect to what we're experiencing right now as cadets?
I think the key takeaway that I had from the conversation was that there's a lot of routes and opportunities that we don't know about as cadets. So I think it's important for cadets to take the time to go and look at what's possible where we could take our careers, because a lot of people just don't know, such as the PA route. I thought that was really interesting. This conversation really highlights what it looks like to build a path that isn't laid out in front of you.
And really how much ownership, curiosity, and persistence it takes to get there.
Let's get into it. Welcome back to Core Conversations. I'm First Class Elijah Parent.
And I'm Tara King Clark.
And today we're joined by Lieutenant Alyse Westbrooks, whose career has taken her from the academy to a cutter to becoming a physician assistant and now into one of the most unique billets in the Coast Guard. Lieutenant Westbrooks, thank you for joining us today. We're going to put you on the clock. In 1 minute, walk us through your career from Coast Guard ensign to where you are now.
All right. Thanks for having me. So I went to the Coast Guard Academy and I was an MES major, Marine Environmental Science major, and I graduated in 2018. From there, I went to Coast Guard Cutter Decisive in Pensacola, Florida, where I was a deck watch officer. I was the combat information system officer, and then I switched to being the first lieutenant on the boat. And then right after the boat, I actually went to PA school. So I started at the Interservice Physician Assistant Program, or IPAP, in San Antonio, Texas, where I did my phase 1, which was just all of the academics. And then from there, I graduated and I went to our phase 2, where I did my actual clinical rotations at Walter Reed in Bethesda, Maryland. From there, I came back to the academy as a PA, so I worked in the clinic. I did that for about a year and a half, and then I transferred now to DC, where I'm a travel PA.
Awesome. Thank you. To start us off, can you just take us back to the beginning? What led you to choose the academy, and what do you think your path was going to look like when you first got there?
So I always knew that I wanted to join the military. I was a military brat. My dad was in the Air Force. So I always knew that was kind of my path. I toyed around with, enlisting, and he was like, oh, I don't really want you to enlist. So he told me about service academies, and then we just started doing a deep dive. I narrowed it down. I knew I didn't want to go to West Point. Annapolis was a little too close to home because I'm from Hampton, Virginia. So I narrowed it down to between Air Force Academy or the Coast Guard Academy. So I did both of the summer programs. I did AIM and then the Air Force Academy summer program. And after kind of going to both of them, I really liked the Coast Guard. It was a bit smaller. I loved the mission. The campus was great. And so that's kind of how I decided my decision to go to the Coast Guard Academy. As far as did I think this is what I ended up being like my career, I definitely didn't, but I'm super happy with how everything turned out and the opportunities I've had since then.
Was there a moment early on where during AIM or swab summer where it really clicked for you that this was where you wanted to be?
Yeah, it definitely didn't click at first. So, like I said, I went to and I absolutely hated it. Through the week, I remember my dad picking me up and he's like, "Do you want to say bye to anybody? Like, did you have a good time?" I was like, "No, let's get in the car. I never want to see this place again. Let's drive away. Rear view mirror." But then I came back for a cadet for the day, and that's what really like solidified it. I came back and I saw the school year, and I was like, okay, so it doesn't always suck. Like AIM was just that swab summer intro, but once you're actually a cadet here, things were different, and I really love the environment. And, like I remember seeing the wardroom, people are just doing crazy things in the wardroom, and I was like, oh, this is so hilarious. Like I can definitely see myself going to school here. So that was really the turning point. I had to give it another shot, so it definitely wasn't like an instant click, but eventually it did.
So when you came to the academy, did you know what you wanted to study?
Yeah, when I applied, I kind of kept it safe and I applied as a government major. So that's what I ended up coming in as. But once I got here, I actually learned about all the majors like during swab summer. And that's when I realized that MES would have been a better fit for me because I had actually, when I grew up, wanted to be a veterinarian. So I was always into like biology, science, like that kind of stuff. So once I realized what the major was actually about and the different tracks you can take, so I switched my third class year to being an MES major.
And you chose to go to a military school where like being a veterinarian is probably like not going to happen.
I honestly had no idea where I was going with that government major. I just knew that I just wanted to get in and somehow like figure out a path. Like my dad's like, you'll figure out your thing once you get the military will help you. And I'm like, okay, sure. So I just went with something that was like simple enough that I'm like, okay, I think I could make it through. I was definitely not going to do like electrical engineering or anything like that. So it wasn't just like a kind of a I gave it a shot, like a lucky chance, because I just had no idea where I would have gone with government. But yeah, I always knew my passion. I just didn't know how I would get there. So
How do you think your extracurriculars shaped your time here?
I think it just kind of helped you like build bonds with people, and then like through different programs you kind of learn about more opportunities. So for example, I was in the EMT PA club, and I feel like that really helped me like being around like-minded people who also liked medicine and who were also doing EMT and interested in the IPAP program. It was just great to like be around those people and like kind of be like, oh, these are the prerequisites we have to get, these are the things that we're interested in. A lot of people talked about applying. I remember my classmates, and then I was like the only one from my class that actually did apply at that time. But it was just great to be, around those people, and it kind of helps shape like your drive and like what you need to get done.
So you didn't come in like planning to do the PA route. How did you discover that path was even an option for you?
So by switching my major, which was a great starting point, I switched to MES, and then one of our instructors actually told us about the PA program. I remember it was my second class year, and he had IPAP like solicitation memo printed, and it had all the prerequisites, and it like outlined the program and everything. And I remember he just put it up in the hallway, and I walked by and I was like, oh, PA, like I didn't even know what a PA was. I didn't know about this program, but it like sparked me to like look into it and actually read more about it. And then I actually started working towards it.
So for listeners who don't know, MES is Marine Environmental Sciences, because there's a lot of acronyms, and hopefully we have a wide audience listening to the podcast. And then can you explain what IPAP stands for and what that is?
Yeah, so that's the Interservice Physician Assistant Program. So it's from all 5 branches of the service, so Army, Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, and we do Marines as well. So we all go to the same program. It's 29 months, so it's like a little over 2 years. And go to San Antonio because it's hosted by the Army. The first half is just all academic, so just courses in 4-month increments. So you do 4 semesters. And then once you graduate from that, you go and you do your actual clinical rotations, which is what really shapes you as a provider. So you do rotations in mainly the big fields like dermatology, family medicine, emergency medicine, things like that. And then after that, you graduate and then you become a PA.
Perfect. Okay.
When you discovered the PA route, were you set on going to that route, or you still kind of figuring out like what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I was dead set. If you ask any of my classmates, I was dead set. I was like, this is what I'm doing. Even if I have to apply like 2-3 times, like I applied the first time and didn't really expect to get it, but I was just like, I'm going to keep trying. Once I found out what it was, like I knew that was the route that I was going to go. So yeah, I was pretty dead set. Like once I saw that memo as a second class, I immediately started working on all the prereqs. Like I went to con and did classes. I did classes online. Like I was so focused in on, going to the PA school. Yeah.
How do you think that focus, because it does really stand out, like how driven you were. And, I think for folks listening, it's not a guarantee that you're going to get into the program if you apply. And until very recently, you couldn't really even apply until after you had entered into the fleet. And so I think it's a testament to your drive that you spent so much time as a cadet preparing yourself. Can you walk us through some of that prep work? You mentioned going to classes at Con, the EMT club, but can you talk through some of those experiences and how they maybe solidified for you that was like, yeah, I definitely want to do this?
Yeah. So it definitely took a lot because we didn't have, like, our major, like we talked about, was marine environmental science. So it's not a perfect, like, major to go into PA school, like, versus other private schools. Like, they would actually have, like, a pre-med or a certain program that would line up better. So there was quite a few classes that were offered here at the academy that I had to go pursue on my own. So that's why I kind of just hit the ground running as soon as I could. And I signed up to take certain classes, like basic things like anatomy and physiology 1 and 2. I had to take medical terminology class. We had things that we had to make up. So I took ecology and I took anatomy and physiology 1 at Connecticut College right across the street. And that helped me just kind of get some of the prerequisites under my belt. But it wasn't like the academy let me do that instead of my other classes. So I still had all of my academy classes to take, and then I was taking these classes on the side as additional workload. Wow. Plus got my EMT certification. And I did the EMT because I just wanted to make sure I was into medicine. So it was just a good intro of treating people, helping people. I remember doing rotations at L&M Hospital and in the ER and just seeing patients. And I was like, yeah, this is definitely something I could see myself doing. So it was just great to get that exposure early on before I was truly, truly committed. But it was great to just start on that front. And then it helped me because then once I went to my boat, my cutter, it was easy to let my command know, hey, I've already been working towards this, and then here's what I have left. So I still had to shadow a physician assistant for 40 hours, and I still had a couple classes that I was still taking online. So I let them know very early on, I'm still focused on getting my qualifications and definitely helping out the cutter. That's my first job. But just so you know, I'm going to be doing these additional things, and it never affected me. I still got everything done on time, even early, and got my classes done as well.
And did you have time for any fun?
I actually did, surprisingly. Even with all of that, I still had time for myself. Which is just.
What did you do for fun? What was that balance for you? Certainly while you were at the academy, because I think it's a good lesson for cadets who I think often feel like they have a lot on their plate. And you added probably even more than most. So, what was your approach to enjoying yourself and having a good time?
Yeah. I mean, I just remember, it's funny because I talk about how it was so much extra on the plate, but I do remember my last year at the academy just being a blast because it's just, you start to realize okay, we're never going to be together as a class ever again like this. And then, everybody's basically 21 at that time. So it's just such a great celebration, so many different things that we're doing, I know the capsule dance wasn't really a thing anymore, but we would just have different celebrations and then parties towards the end. And so I definitely did still have fun and hang out with people. And especially that last semester when I knew, okay, I'm not going to be able to just go to my best friend's room and just hang out with her all night. So you have to take advantage of these moments, and, we're all going to be spread out across the United States. And it was just crazy. But I still had time for fun.
Good.
I mean, I definitely see that right now because I only have a month left, and it's just I'm oh my god, I'm not going to see my friends for a while. Yeah.
I remember that grad week, I got to room with my best friend because she was in a different company, and it was just so much fun to just that last time be able to be her roommate and just hang out. And yeah, it's you just still have those great experiences here towards the end. So just enjoy it now.
Yeah, take it up as much as I can.
Yes.
Did it ever feel like a risk, putting in that time and getting those certifications, not exactly knowing if it would pay off or not?
I mean, it felt like a risk, sort of, but I like I said, I feel like I was going to just keep applying until I maybe hit my 5 years, and then I was going to just get out and do it on my own, or still keep applying and just ask for a waiver, because you actually can't go to the program if you have more than 5 years of service. So I think it wasn't too much of a risk for me, because I think I would have figured out a route either way. And then those things would have just been, extra things to add.
So you graduated and you went to your first cutter, but you knew you had those other qualifications, not just the ones you needed to get on the cutter, but like the other qualifications you needed for PA school. You talked when we chatted before about how folks really helped you through that in that first billet. So do you want to talk through that mentorship and how important that was for you at that time?
Yes, it was huge. So when I reported to my cutter, I was, like I said, a deck watch officer. So I fell under the operations department. So my operations officer, or my boss, his wife was a PA in the Coast Guard, and it just lined up so perfectly. He actually knew what the program was. His wife had went through it. And so he was not only a mentor to me in terms of like deck watch officer things, but his wife was a mentor to me in terms of becoming a PA. And they were just both very, very supportive. Always willing to answer questions. He was a great support with talking to like our commanding officer, our CO, because our CO didn't really know what the PA program was. But having an operations officer who had a wife that went through it, it was very easy for him to communicate it to her, or to him, and be like, this is what she's doing. This is why she needs to do these things. We need to support it. She needs to do this or whatever. And he was really good at advocating and letting them know like why I had to get those things done. So they were super supportive. They set up weeks where I could go and shadow at like nearby clinics. I went to the clinic in Mobile, Alabama, went to the clinic in New Orleans, and got a lot of shadowing hours. And so they were just both really great mentors, and still really great mentors that I'm thankful for now. So.
I think it would be helpful to understand really why did you have to do that? Like, why did you have to go and shadow? Because I think that from what you explained to us, like that's part of the requirement to even apply, correct? Okay. So walk us through that.
So you have to shadow, I think it's only a minimum of 40. I could be wrong, but you have to shadow because they want to make sure that you know what it's like, not only to be a PA, but be a military PA. So the requirement is to shadow a military PA, preferably Coast Guard, obviously, but some people go to units and are somewhere more remote where they might only have access to like an Air Force or an Army or something like that. So they do allow that. But the reason it's so important is they want to make sure you know what it's like to be a PA. You understand the workload, how many patients you have to see, how you're kind of always on call situation. Medical is very, very important. We often have to like do commands and explain to them why this person isn't suitable to do these things or why this person isn't available to them. So it's often like very difficult conversations, hard things to do. So they want to make sure that you understand the job, understand what you're essentially getting yourself into, and if that's still what you're desiring.
What did you do that wasn't required but made probably the biggest difference?
I doubled the shadowing hours. So I did 80 instead of 40. And I think that made a huge difference. One, because I got to see multiple clinics and environments. And then two, it just showed like I'm not doing the bare minimum. Like I'm making sure this is what I want to do, and I'm overachieving, and I'm letting that board know that I'm interested in this. And I think that helped a lot. I also got some additional courses done. So I don't know if people are familiar with like basic life support, BLS, ALS, advanced life support. I did things like that in addition to having the EMT. So just taking more medical type classes and getting more medical certifications just to show my interest.
Did you ever have an experience like while you were on the cutter or before you entered the PA program where like your EMT experience, like, oh, hey, I know how to fix that, or I can help you with that? Like, did anything ever come up?
Not in like real life.
Okay.
But on the cutter, you do drills, like medical drills.
Yeah.
And so I would often help a lot with our HS, our health service technician.
Okay.
I would help a lot with like those, and that would really click and like help me remember a lot of those emergency scenarios. We never had anything where it was a real human, but it definitely helped in the training front because I was also the training officer. So it definitely helped to be able to understand these medical drills and help them set it up or be like, hey, maybe we should do things like that. But
so what does good mentorship, I mean, you talked a little bit about it, but in those moments where, you were probably really, like you were balancing a lot, like, okay, I need to make sure I get these hours. I need to continue to take some courses. And your first bullet is what, 2 years?
Yeah, 2 years.
So that's like a pretty compressed period of time. So were there additional ways mentorship showed up for you that like allowed you to stay focused and keep your eye on that prize of PA school?
Yeah, I think they were just the mentorship was great and they were just so supportive, and I think that's the thing that helped the most because I've heard horror stories from my classmates of like going to a command that underway is the only way. So they don't want to hear that you want to do a different career path. They don't want to hear anything other than I want to be my own CEO one day of a boat. Like, so I think it was just so great to have commands who were supportive of my decision and was like, okay, underways, I'm an underway officer, but you don't want to be one, and that's okay. We're still going to help you and support you and do it. Like, they would always check in, like, do you need anything else for your package? They were so supportive, like, helping write my recommendations. I couldn't have asked for better. And I think also, like what you asked, Elijah, when you're like, okay, well, did you ever feel like you were taking that risk? They even talked to me about like backup plans. So like I still had to submit a new dream sheet for if I didn't go to PA school next. And so I remember my officer, I put like a waterways management job. I had no idea what it is. I was just like putting things on there. He's like, absolutely not. Like, if you don't get the PA program, you're not going to go to waterways. That's not going to help you if you want to get it later. He's like, you got to go to something a little bit better, a little more high profile, high tempo. Like, he really helped me like map it out. He's like, you need to do this so that if you apply again, you still look really competitive. So they were just really good at like helping guide me and tell me like, this is what you're going to do.
I feel like that's a good transition to the PA program as a whole. So what was the transition like going from a line officer into a full-time medical training environment? Is it a big switch?
Yeah, it was a huge switch actually. I really like the pace just completely dropped down because when you're a junior officer on a boat, you're just like always on go and running and doing things, and it's a different type of hard. But then when I switched into like going to school and I had to like basically remember how to study again. But I do think the academy really set me up well. I basically just went to school from like 8 to 4, and then from 4 to like 6 was like me time, gym, workout, eat dinner, and then like from 7 to 10 study. So it just felt it's almost like the academy. So it was just so different, but also it felt I was just going to school full time. So I was no longer, a division officer on a boat and responsible for people and a crew and just doing the Coast Guard mission and running around. I was now focused, putting myself on a schedule, really just only responsible for myself. And so it just felt different, but it just felt like going back to school, like back at the academy. And I just put myself in a little routine and kind of got through it.
Did it feel like the stress level increased or decreased or about the same, you would think? Or just different?
Different. So I think we all think the academy is really hard, and it was really hard. I'm not saying it wasn't, but it was a little bit different to go to PA school because then you had more distractions. Like, you they kind of keep you like here, you're in it, but then there you have to like really manage your own self, and it's very easy to like lose track of that. So it was a different kind of hard because I just feel like I had more things like outwardly going on that I had to like not let myself get distracted from. Like, you could just be watching TV and doing nothing. So you have to like really be like locked in. Like, you just have to really control yourself and not let the outside stuff bother you versus when you're just a cadet and you only have to really worry about that.
Do you think that the academy kind of set you up for that? Like, so you were able to actually like lock in when you needed to?
Yeah, I think it did. And it was also like a little bit easier because at the academy, you're balancing academic, sports, military obligations, everything, versus I guess then I was only really balancing academics. So it did make it a little easier. There's no one saying, I have to get this sports credit or I have to show up to formation at this time. We had our own little things we had to do, but it was a little bit easier, I guess, with less responsibilities. But I still, me being me, I was still volunteering in different organizations. Like, I signed up to be the community relations director for our student society. So I was still doing extra things, unfortunately. But yeah, I feel like they were probably pretty much the same if I had to compare it.
Thinking about the timeline, you basically ended up going to PA school essentially during COVID, which what a unique time for you to be in a school where you're actually learning how to be a medical professional, which I think, added like a whole nother layer to your experience.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. We weren't really sure how it was going to play out. I was very early into the COVID era, but it basically just turned my PA school into a hybrid experience instead of like a full hands-on experience. I personally liked it though. So what they did was I took all of my classes during the day virtually online, and then we would only come in person for like hands-on labs, learning actual skills, and for our exams. So I still got to interact with my classmates. We were still very hands-on. I learned all those skills that you need as a medical officer. But when I was in class, I was just in class like at my house, in the comfort of my home and learning that way, which I actually did kind of like and prefer, but it is very easy, again, like I said, like to get distracted. So I know people who are now going through and they get to go to class every day and they love it. So I do feel like I didn't get that experience, but it still turned out very well.
Well, and I think too, COVID was such a crazy time where it was like the external world was so distracting because you're like, you don't know what's going on. Are we going to be safe? Do we need to keep cleaning our groceries? Like, all sorts of crazy stuff. And then to add PA school on top of it must have just been like, even more challenging, I think, than just sort of like regular life. So kudos to you for getting through all that in the midst of COVID. What do you think was the most challenging part about that program?
I think the most challenging part is all the exams. Okay. So you always have 2 exams a week. You have an exam on Monday and then you have an exam on Friday. And so you almost essentially have to study for 2 things at once in order to be successful, because you have that Friday exam and then you turn around and have a test Monday. So you only have the weekend to study. So if you only study for 2 days, it's not going to work out. So you have to really balance like what exams you're studying for. And I think that was definitely the hardest part, is that quick turnaround.
And then you came back to the academy. What did it mean for you to be in a position where you could mentor cadets who were interested in the same path that you took?
It meant a lot. It was really cool, actually. I loved talking to people. Like, I would meet up with people and just answer questions, and I made like PowerPoints to help talk them through the application process and things that make you more competitive, like I talked about earlier. And I just feel like it was great to just give back and explain to them, here's what you can do, here's how I can help, reach out to me anytime. Like, I let people call me all the time and I would just talk to them, help them approach different ideas. I do wish that we could have let people shadow at the academy, but obviously it's like the conflict of interest. But I enjoyed at least being able to talk to people and give them that advice if they were interested.
Did you specifically come back to PA here at the academy because you wanted to have the opportunity to mentor cadets, or was it just a happy accident?
Yeah, I actually was interested in coming back here, and it was kind of for that exact reason, because I was like, okay, here's where I can make a difference. I really love like women's health too. So when I came back, I actually started a women's health clinic here. So
awesome.
I was helping cadets be able to get like same-day contraceptives or like IUD placements and things like that. And it was just great to just change how, I just remember how things were for me as a cadet. So it was opposite.
Wait, there was not a women's health clinic before you got here?
No.
Oh my gosh, Alyse. Why didn't we talk about this before? That's amazing.
Yeah.
How did you make it happen? Like, you saw a need, and talk us through that.
Yeah, I saw a need. Actually, the person who was here before me, she was kind of toying with it. She got like her privileges to be able to do IUD service, but then she left and transferred because I was taking over her spot. And so I was like, oh, I didn't even know this is something we could do. I really ran with it and just decided, why not have it? And the clinic command was really supportive of it. So we did open it up one morning a week. We were able to let like females come in and just, even if they just want to talk about birth control, because it's sometimes you don't have those conversations and you just want someone to just bounce ideas off of, like, this is what I've read, this is what I've heard, do you have any ideas? And like, people have so many side effects and things like that. And being a cadet, you just don't want to be dealing with those things. So it was just great to always have those conversations with them and being like, let's try this. You're not married to this. Let's try something else. So that was like a really rewarding part of being.
Has that program continued after you've left, or was it sort of like person specific? Because I hope it's not.
I do not think that it held up as strongly. I think those resources are still available to the female cadets, but I don't think it's like a set time anymore.
Got it. And you showed up right at, was it swab summer? Am I remembering correct? Like when you showed up to first report here at the academy?
A little
was
bit
it
before.
a little before? What was that like to come back and be the PA during swab summer?
Oh my goodness, that was so rough. And it just honestly helped me remember. I was definitely a little soft on them. I know my counterparts were just like, you can't be so soft on them. I'm like, no, but it's so hard. You don't understand. Like, they just need a day to just rest. We just have to let them.
Were you the only PA or medical staff who had actually gone through swab summer? So you were
I
like,
was.
I know.
I really was. And so it was cool to kind of tell them why these things matter. But I know there are policies in place, for cadets. You can't be out for so long. So I did have to kind of rein it in and like maybe not let people just hang out a little too much. But it's just so interesting, like swab summer. But the injuries were also interesting. We actually ended up looking at that because people were just constantly, we were seeing the same injury patterns, especially like on the O course. So that's another thing that I kind of took up was like looking into like what was happening and how we could mitigate it for the next summer. And they actually did, like the athletics staff, they had a meeting with us. They took a lot of that into consideration and they changed the way they were kind of doing things for the future summers. So that's why we saw like a big shift between the summer when I started and then the next summer.
I think that actually affected me because my swap summer, they didn't allow us to run in boots anymore. I'm assuming that was like you.
It's like, why are we seeing these same injuries over and over? Like, maybe we should
Yeah.
stop doing these things if it's preventable. Like, what does it really teach you to do that anyway?
Yay.
Yeah.
We've got
I was-
evidence that it was like,
I was happy with the change. I didn't have to run in boots.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
It was good to make an impact and come back, even though I was only here for a short amount of time.
I think that's a great perspective, though. Like, you actually were someone who went through it. You knew the challenges that the Corps faced. I'm sure any cadet who walked in to see you for treatment was probably like, this is someone who knows. They get it. They understand. Like, that's a cool opportunity, I think. So,
Did like working in the clinic give you kind of a different perspective from what you may have thought about it as a cadet?
Yeah, I think it definitely like brought in, the things that people are just going through and just all the pressures from all the places. Like if you have a medical issue going on and then your company commander is like on you and asking what's going on or, people are just always in your business.
Yeah.
It brought a different perspective. Like, okay, let me just focus and help them here in this aspect and mentally if they need that as well, just someone to lean on and just give them an escape. Like a lot of times people just felt really trapped up in chase or in classes because everybody, like all eyes are on them. So it was just nice to kind of be the other side. That's like, hey, I don't care about all the other stuff. I don't know what your grades are. I don't know how you're performing military wise. I just want to know, are you okay as a person? Like you right now, do you need to just sit in my room and cry? Like, what do you need to do? And it was just great to kind of be that shoulder to lean on and that medical aspect. And like anything you say to me, I'm not going to just run back up and tell the people in chase. Like it doesn't matter to me. So it was just great to be a support on the other side.
I know you talked about kind of informing people on the route that you went on. Did you find yourself in like a mentor role with some cadets here?
Yeah, I didn't. I haven't taken it too far, but I definitely did help on the front of helping them apply. But I didn't take on anybody mentoring once they got through. So that would be something I would love to do in the future. Maybe help all the way through the process. But I definitely did a lot of mentoring on the front end.
Do people reach out to you still that you helped get it? Yeah.
All the time, yes. But I love talking to people about it and helping people through it. It's just a great program, and I love helping people get into it if they're into it.
I mean, I definitely have this year, especially. Is the most I probably heard. I didn't even know that was even a possibility when I first got here, and then this year I know some people have actually that was their first billet that they got. I think this is the first year that someone has gotten that. And I feel like you kind of spearheaded all of this. So,
what advice do you give cadets?
I usually would just ask them, like, okay, like, why are you into medicine? Like, what's the passion? And, like, where did this develop? Because I like to see if people are just kind of into it because, I mean, they don't want to be on a boat, or are they into it because they actually want to help people?
Yeah.
So that's usually, like, where I first start is like, the mindset. Because you have to really want to help people because you're just going to get so many different types of patients. You're going to get the patient who is perfect to a T, does everything right, and you're like, oh, I love you, thank you. Then you're going to get the patient that's like, I did nothing that you told me to do. And then you just have to be like so ready for both options and just, okay, like, okay, what are you willing to do? You know, it's just, you have to like want to do that with people. And so I usually just ask more like, what's the motivation? That's the first question. And as long as they have a good reason, and I'm definitely willing to help them get to their goal.
Awesome.
For cadets listening who might be interested in this path, how has the PA role evolved in the Coast Guard?
So it's definitely changing. We were really focused on being in the larger clinics, especially when I was applying. They were always telling us like expect to come back to like Cape May or Trayson's, Petaluma, Yorktown, things like that. But now they're starting to evolve to actually have PAs on cutters, putting PAs on the Wimsels and the icebreakers, just permanently positioned there. Just because they're going on these long patrols and they often really need that medical support. So it is kind of shifting to be a little more underway than originally. It was really, really shore based, and then just we would deploy to the cutters as needed or as they requested. But we are kind of shifting more to actually being shipboard. So that is something for people to know and be aware of.
Do you think you would find yourself going back underway as a PA?
You know, I don't think I can truly say yes, but I will never say never. It's just not something that I'm interested in right now.
Like you've mentioned it a little bit. Like what can someone expect when they're like, okay, you're now a PA? Like, do you get to choose a specialty? Like, do you get to be the dermatologist? Do you, or do you sort of like family medicine? Like, what are those options?
Yeah. So when you come out of school, you're going to be just general family medicine. You're going to see regular patients. We don't see children. We only see adults and the Coast Guard. That's one thing to be aware of. We do have the option for fellowships. So you could do an emergency medicine fellowship, do an ortho sports med type fellowship, and then psychiatry. That doesn't necessarily change what your day-to-day looks like, but it changes more so where you would be placed in the Coast Guard. So if you have that psychiatry background, you most likely be in remote areas like Kodiak, Alaska, where people need a lot more of that mental health support, or Golden Gate, Station Golden Gate. So they often put like a psych person there as well because there's a lot of bridge jumpers. So you just have to think about if you do a specialty where you might end up just because where we need that specialty.
Interesting.
But the typical day for most people is going to be usually your first few patients of the day are going to be people coming in with like cold and flu symptoms, maybe someone coming in for an ER follow-up or an urgent care, something that's more like needs attention now. We usually do those first thing in the morning. And then you kind of start to filter out into your routine patients. So you might be doing a follow-up on someone who has like a chronic medical condition. You might be doing like a retirement physical, separation physicals, different things that people need there, pap smears or procedures. So sometimes people want toenail removals. We do a lot of those. So, yeah, your day
for me, I'm like, no, thank you. But
your day just starts to become a little more. We call them like routine appointments. Yeah, and procedures. Yeah.
Wow, that's news to me. I'm sorry, I've never heard of it, but thank you for doing the work that you do.
And it's pretty busy. Like here at the academy, I would see maybe 10 to 12 patients in the morning alone, and then another 10 to 12 in the afternoon. So I was seeing like 20 to 30 patients a day, depending on if
that's a lot.
More cadets needed help. Yeah. So it's very, very busy. But the nice part is it has an end. At some point the day is over and there's no more appointments to be had. So you know that it ends. So I did kind of like the stability of that. And I like personally like coming in early and just charting and getting things done. Like you don't have to, be around all day, every day, because people can always call you. You can give medical advice over the phone. You don't have to physically be here. So it was kind of nice schedule wise.
What's like that long-term path look like for a PA? Do you ever get the opportunity to like do like an exchange at like a bigger hospital with like the Navy or something? Or is it like you're just at Coast Guard billets?
Right now, since we don't have ourselves fully built out, we don't have the staffing, we're only focused on our billets because we have some gaps right now.
Okay.
So everybody's pretty much going to just be at Coast Guard stations. Some of those stations are a little collaborative with you might be working with Air Force or Army, but you aren't going to see their patients. There's only like one place that I know, and I think that's Cape Cod, where we see Air Force patients.
Okay.
But otherwise, you're always going to just see Coast Guard patients in just our clinic.
Cool.
There's also a balance between like clinical and operational assignments. How should people think about that as they consider this path?
I think they should think about it, especially because there's a higher possibility of going underway. They would still be 2-year billets like any other underway, but it's not going to just be working in big clinics anymore. I would say expect to do a big clinic tour like right out of PA school because you need that under your belt and see a lot of patients, have something different, but there's not a ton of those. So I would say just be prepared to be at clinics mostly and then maybe a little underway tour in there.
What would it look like if you were sent to a ship for 2 years? When you're not out to sea, what would you be doing as a PA? Would you still be seeing your crew? Would you have an office on the ship? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think they're still building it out for them as well. But I think the idea is when you're in port, you would be working at whatever clinic is near. So like the
Got it.
Windsors are in Charleston or Alameda for the most part. So probably in Charleston, working in that clinic and helping whoever's there.
Yeah.
But you would be seeing like primarily your crew members. So like they should be
Yeah.
going to you still for their medical, but you might just be working out of there just so you can keep a higher patient load and see more people than just your like crew.
Yeah.
Because they're only going to have so many problems. You still need to like keep your credentials up as a PA. I think that's the idea. And then while you're underway, it's great because then they can still keep all their readiness up. They can still do all their physicals, exams, so you can keep track of them that way. And then in port, it's kind of like as needed.
And I could see that being really beneficial if you're on a long tour at sea and, there's like one more person who's just a safe space if you're having a hard day. But I could see that being really beneficial. So what do you think is the greatest opportunity for impact as a PA, the Coast Guard?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I really feel like every day it's so impactful. I've had so many patients walk through the door and be like, I have not been able to get care. I've been trying to reach out and I couldn't get a provider. And then you just finally take them on and they're like, oh my gosh, this is just great. I think it's very impactful work and it's just super rewarding, especially when you see someone and you're just trialing all these different things and they finally get relief. It's just so rewarding to like see that all that hard work you put in with them, that they're finally getting to a good place.
Are there any trade-offs that people should know about before like going into this field?
Something I do think you have to know is like I kind of hinted on, you're kind of on call always. And so it's just something to be considerate of because people are going to need your specialty expertise. Like people don't know a ton about medicine. Like I remember we had an incident where cadets were involved in like a motor vehicle accident. And so the commandant of cadets is like calling and he's like, I want to know how are these cadets doing? What's the status? Like, where are they at? Where are they being treated? Things like that. So you just always have to be that voice of reason and explain, talk to the medical professionals at the ER, see what's going on, and then translate it to talk to like the command. So it's something to consider as you're always that expert.
Like juggling two different languages.
Yeah, and they're going to want to know. Commands are going to want to know what's going on. So you have to be able to communicate these things.
If you could go back and talk to yourself as a cadet before you knew any of this path existed, what would you tell yourself?
I think I would tell myself it's going to be really, really, really hard. You're going to want to quit a lot, multiple times, but it's going to be so worth it and rewarding in the end. Like everything is going to happen for a reason. Just keep going and don't give up. I think that's exactly what I would tell myself.
And for those cadets or alums even who are listening who feel like maybe they don't have that clear path yet in their mind, what would you want them to take from your story?
I think just express your passions, express what you're interested in. People often want to be introspective with it, like what they're kind of exploring or things they might be interested in. I was always outright with it, like I'm interested in this, I like this. And it helps when people know these things about you because then they can be like, well, have you ever heard of that? Have you ever that's exactly how I ended up at the academy by telling my dad, like, I'm interested in serving. And he's like, okay, well, have you heard about this? And then it's exactly how you end up being an MES major. So I would just say, talk about it. Talk about things out loud. Random people you meet, just tell them your interests. You never know, like, who might be like, have you heard of this? And then you just start Googling and you just find something amazing. So I just would say, like, express your interests and talk to different people because you just never know what you might find or like what you might end up doing.
What continues to motivate you even at this stage of your career?
I just am still motivated by my impact. So I just love helping people. I love seeing people get better and healthier. So that's just what's motivating me to keep going. And I'm probably just going to keep being a PA as long as I can.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story.
Thanks, Lieutenant Westbrooks.
Thank you for having me.
That was our conversation for today. Thank you for joining us here in Studio 1887. Please stick around for a few more minutes as I spotlight what your impact looks like in action here at the U.S. Coast Guard Academy in a short closing segment we're calling the Alumni Impact Interlude. Financial support from the Alumni Association is a game changer for the overall cadet experience. Learn more from the following cadet who is directly benefiting from your support. It's time for the Alumni Impact Interlude. Coast Guard women's rugby dominated the pitch in 2025, winning the Division II final of the Collegiate Rugby Sevens Championship in April, and they again dominated last fall, becoming the Division II National College Rugby Champions for the first time in program history. The Alumni Association supported the team by providing funds to cover their travel expenses through our Bears Athletics Fund, and in particular, the Women's Rugby Fund. Today, I'm joined by First Class Kate Boggs, captain of the women's rugby team, to talk about that impact and their historic season. First Class Boggs was also named the most valuable player of the tournament, and in January was named the National Collegiate Rugby Player of the Year. Woo! Kate, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you started playing rugby when you got here as a fourth class, and I remember in a previous interview you talked about that being a driving factor and keeping you motivated to stay here at the academy. So how has rugby shaped you as a person outside of practice and matches?
Yes, rugby is definitely what kept me here, and my coach and I talk about that all the time. She was like, if rugby is what keeps you here, just play as much as you want. As far as it shaping me, I think it's really been my outlet at the academy, and, you know, that's my safe place. So with it keeping me here, that's kind of where I put all of my energy into once I decided to stay. It's taught me to be like resilient, and there's going to be adversities along the way, but kind of just keep pushing, and hard work pays off.
I think the takeaway I had when we talked earlier this year after the historic win, and there was a lot of focus on what that team environment was like and how tight you guys are all as a team. Are you able to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So the other captain, Savannah McBrayer, and I, we were captains for sevens and 15s for both of our national championships. And, you know, at the beginning of the season, we sat down with the team and our coach and talked about what our goals were and how far we wanted to go. And one of the first things brought up was we want to win nationals. So Savannah McBrayer and I, we had morning practices, morning workouts, and did everything that we could to get the team there. And, you know, it's not always easy. We sometimes butt heads, all of us, but that's kind of just
literally and figuratively.
Literally and figuratively, yes. But it was definitely worth it. I think we, as a team, know when we're all struggling and kind of need to take a step back and say, okay, what's going good, what's going wrong, and work from there. You know, if everyone's burnt out from the academy, there's a lot of schoolwork, you know, got to be understanding, adjust the schedule, and still focus on that goal.
Well, and one thing that you had some very challenging adversities with some injuries, and you guys were able to overcome that and still dominate on the pitch, which I think is just so impressive. And if folks want to learn more about that, they can read the bulletin article.
Yes.
So what advice would you give to a swab or a prospective cadet who's considering rugby for the first time?
Just go for it. It's going to be kind of nerve-wracking at first. I had never played before coming here, and I wasn't completely sold. I would show up to practice, but it wasn't until my first game when I had that first tackle, that first try, where I was like, okay, this is so much fun. It was like I was on a high of just rugby, and it's great. So just give it a try, literally and figuratively. And, just go for it.
So finally, before we have you go, this championship marks both a national title, but also nearly 25 years since the program was founded. So what does this moment mean to you?
This moment means everything to me. To win 2 national titles in 1 year is amazing for women's rugby as a whole. And to have Katie Simone at Sevens Nationals to support us and give us our pep talk, and for 15s, have a phone call with her was just awesome. And to continue that long blue line of women's rugby and creating that network. And in the fall we had homecoming, and it's 25th anniversary, so we got to celebrate with Katie Simone and her teammates who founded the team, and they got to reminisce on their memories, and it was great to hear that and how the team is like your family even when you leave here. So to have that community with the Alumni Association and celebrate 25 years together was remarkable.
It's awesome. Well, Katie, thanks so much for joining me, and good luck in Boston on the new women's team that's up there. You're joining a rugby team, and good luck at your first billet, more importantly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to our alumni community for your continued engagement. You are what keep this community strong and thriving, especially our members. Membership in your alumni association matters. It empowers connections between our alumni and the Academy to develop thriving and enduring relationships. It supports state-of-the-art and margin of excellence enhancements for the Corps of Cadets. And membership also comes with some pretty cool benefits, like access to professional development and certifications, unique connection opportunities to grow your network, discounts and savings when welcoming back the whole family for homecoming, and so much more. Your membership even supports projects like this podcast. So stay connected, stay up to date, and ensure that your ties to the Long Blue Line remain strong. Become a member today at cgaalumni.org/1887. If this conversation resonated with you, please subscribe, rate, and share with your network so these stories can continue to reach and connect our community. Until next time.